Ladies and gentlemen of the court, my name is Serenity B, and I stand before you today as the personal injury lawyer representing the plaintiff in this case. I proudly represent the people of Algorithm RP seeking justice for an incident that unfolded on the fateful evening of May 8th, 2023 at approximately 18:30 hours Pacific or 21:30 hours EST. Allow me to direct your attention to my client, Mr. Maddock Maxwell, who was merely present outside his place of business that evening, surrounded by his friends.
Yeah, Big Max.
It was at this moment that the police, including Officer Jerry Juice, and two other officers began to encircle this group. First, in their vehicle around the premises, then shortly afterwards, stepping out of their vehicles under the pretense of being interested in purchasing goods from my client's establishment. However, what transpired next is a chain of events that will shock your conscience. Officer Juice, in an act that was both unwarranted and invasive, proceeded to take pictures of my client's personal vehicle. This act alone left my client feeling unfairly targeted, profiled, and disrespected. Understandably, tensions escalated, resulting in an altercation that ensued between my client and the officers. What occurred next is nothing short of a tragedy. Despite my client being already restrained in a state of custody and posing no immediate threat, he was ruthlessly shot. Shot while in the act of seeking safety, unattended, and vulnerable. This act was a gross violation of not only police protocol, but also the basic principles of humanity and justice. Today, we gather here to shed light on a case that exposes the flaws and inadequacies of a standard operating procedure, an SOP that governs the actions of law enforcement officers. It is evident that this SOP falls short in addressing critical issues such as bias, profiling, and the exercise of police power and authority, as well as the crucial matters of use of force and de-escalation techniques. The heart of this case revolves around a man, a victim, who found himself at the mercy of an SOP that failed to protect his rights and ensure his safety. This flawed and outdated SOP allowed for a sequence of events that should have never transpired. If the officers involved have received proper and training in de-escalation techniques, they may have been equipped to defuse the situation or approach it differently, ultimately averting the use of force and violence that tragically unfolded. In a desperate attempt to seek refuge within his place of business, my client, fearing for his own well-being, found himself fleeing from what he perceived as an imminent threat. It is within this very moment that he was mercilessly gunned down, treated as if he posed a significant danger. We contend that this SOP, which lacked appropriate provisions for de-escalation, and addressing bias, allowed for an unnecessary and unjustified use of force against an individual who posed no immediate threat. The consequences of such negligence are severe and demand our attention as we strive for a fair and just society. Throughout the course of this trial, you will be presented with compelling evidence that exposes the shortcomings of this SOP, evidence that showcases the pressing need for reform and the adoption of a more inclusive, effective, and compassionate practices within law enforcement. Ladies and gentlemen, as members of this esteemed jury, we implore you to carefully evaluate the evidence presented before you, consider the impact of this flawed SOP and the consequences it had on the life of an innocent man. We trust that your wisdom and discernment will guide you to a verdict that sends a powerful message, a message demanding accountability, progress, and the protection of fundamental rights of all individuals within our community. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to presenting the facts and evidence that will illuminate the truth in this case.
I gotta pee real quick. I gotta pee. Fuck out of my way.
Yo, I don't know where the commissioner is, but she just drug y'all's SOP through the
yes.
fucking mud.
Oh, you did
morning.
that.
Hey, where you?
Good evening. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Vasquez, and today I will be representing the PD department. I, together with my team, will be addressing the allegation that you just heard in their opening statement. And we will explain to you why all of these inflammatory things are things that are designed to mislead you from the truth. We will explain what the evidence will show. We are going to focus on the evidence, not what we wish the evidence showed, not some crazy conspiracy theory, but what the evidence and the facts actually show. You're being asked to decide a very simple question. And the question is, Did the PD shoot Mr. Maxwell while he was in handcuffs? And was their SOP escalating the situation to the point where a common civilian would be justified to punch and shoot an officer? And was Officer the Juice need a reason to take a picture of a car in a public space? This is the question, and that's what you are being asked to decide. And that is Mr. Maxwell's team burden to prove. The burden of proof lies with Mr. Maxwell's team. But they can't do that. They can't come close to doing that. And for that reason, you're going to hear in this trial, Mr. Maxwell's team going to make it about trying to distract you from that very simple question. Mr. Maxwell's team is going to try to turn this case into a soap opera. Why? I'm not really sure. Because the evidence isn't pretty for them. In this trial, you're going to see who the real Maxwell is. A hothead, a troublemaker, a danger to the society. You're going to see who that man really is.
Objection.
This case carries serious allegation that requires strong evidence to cold-blooded murder, where Mr. Maxwell's claim he was shot by an officer while he was handcuffed. A claim that can be compared to what the Russian Wagner militia did to the Syrian people in 2015.
No, what Russia got to do with it?
Objection, relevance.
Hey, ain't no way
Wagner.
you
This is
compare
opening statements.
you shooting
Please
him
keep your
to-
composure.
That man is from Russia.
Wagner, a militia formed by criminals, murdered, shot people, crushed people's skull with their tanks after they surrendered and got there tied up on the ground.
Man compared
What
one
the
man
hell?
dying to
This
genocide.
claim is being accused by a man who decides to punch and start shooting after when Officer Juice simply want to take personal picture of a car he like in a public street. Officer Juice does not need a reason to take a picture. It's a public place after all. But for some reason, as will be shown in the evidence, being extremely sensitive to anything does not excuse of punching and shooting anyone. You will see that Mr. Maxwell is a man who would perfectly fit into that militia group like Wagner, not Officer Juice, nor the PD. What I just said is very important, because the only evidence they will be able to showcase is fictional and speculative defamatory allegation to Officer Juice and the PD. But this trial is not about this. Ultimately, what this case is about allegation that needs direct proof and no speculation. Thank you.
You may call your first witness.
I would like to call Mr. Maxwell to the stand. Okay. On May 8th, where were you outside when this event happened?
In front of my business.
Can you please tell the jury the name of your business?
Cookies.
What do you do at Cookies? What is the nature of your business?
We sell legal marijuana. Big 420. Big ZA.
Have you been making sales prior to May 8th?
Yeah, we make some shit.
On May 8th, what was the nature of your business at Cookies?
Me and my little brother had just got done stocking up, and so we had a couple little fellas come through, and we was chilling outside.
Was your business open to the public? Could people come and purchase goods?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any other business you were taking care of when you were open that night?
Nah, not that I can recall.
And you would say around 1830 hours your time, you noticed suspicious activity?
Objection.
Yes, ma'am.
Sustained.
Around
Continue.
1830 hours, did anything out of the ordinary happen?
Yeah, the police had started like circling the block. They was like ride up, kind of slowly pass by, and flash their lights for no reason, and then keep going. They did it about 2 or 3 times.
So just to clarify, you recognize police circling your business?
Yes, ma'am.
About 2 or 3 times, you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Were the police in an unmarked vehicle or a marked vehicle?
They were marked.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
The police were in a marked vehicle, so you definitely knew it was police.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what happened next?
Then Officer Juice walked in. They ended up pulling up at there about the third time. Officer Juice stepped out of the vehicle, followed by about 2 or 3 other officers. And then he continued to walk up, saying that he was going to purchase some goods, but he ended up taking pictures of my vehicle and me and my partners without our consent.
Interesting. My question for you is, when Officer Juice and the other 2 officers stepped out, were they undercover or were they in uniform?
No, all of them was in uniform.
Okay, so all the 2 or 3 officers you saw, the 2 or 3 officers that you saw, they were in uniform and they stepped out onto your premises. Did they make any conversations with you?
Juice began to say something. He was talking about cookies, saying cookies this, and like I said, acting as if he was going to come in and buy. But then he just started taking pictures of my vehicle.
So from your recollection, did Officer Juice purchase anything from your establishment?
No, ma'am.
Officer Juice took pictures of your vehicle.
Yeah, ma'am.
Do you recall what happened next? Sorry.
I socked him in the mouth.
Okay, you laid hands on Officer Juice.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what happened after that?
Yeah, he ran back behind the vehicle, and I followed up behind him. I really was trying to see if he wanted to get down. And I ain't gonna lie, but he ended up pulling out. I thought it was a gun, but it ended up being a taser. He ended up tasing me, and then putting me in cuffs. And from there, I didn't really see nothing else. So I went down.
Okay, so you recall being tased after you physically assaulted the officer?
Yes, ma'am. I got tased to the ground, and then, I ain't go unconscious. I just didn't necessarily see exactly the immediate event after that.
Do you remember being cuffed?
Yes.
Okay.
Huh.
All right.
Don't remember running away, huh?
Officer Juice, I'm going to ask that you contain yourself.
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize.
All right. That is the end of my questioning.
When you were at the cookies, there were plenty of other people there. Do you know those people?
Some of it was my partners.
After you've been tased and handcuffed, where did you run to?
I was running for cover in my business, my place of business.
Which way were you facing?
I was facing my business.
If that is the case, how do you know that an officer shot you?
Because it came from the direction that the officer was standing.
Were there other people who stood in front of you or behind you?
There wasn't anybody else behind me. Nobody was in front of me. You can see it clear in both videos.
But that's not really the case. There were plenty of people.
Objection leading.
This is a cross-examination, Judge. Not a direct examination.
Sustained.
Alright, that's it for my questions.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Damn. That's crazy.
Why is
Next
this?
witness.
I have no further witnesses, Your Honor.
I'm taking Officer Juice to the stands.
There we go. Showtime.
Before the incident, what were you doing?
I was on patrol, just doing my normal patrol in my zone. The officer occurred and myself.
What made you to decide to go to the cookies?
I got a radio transmission from Officer Kurd letting me know that there were multiple vehicles parked illegally on a sidewalk in front of a business establishment, and we also wanted to go out there and check out cookies because neither of us have ever been there.
Once you arrived there, what did you do?
Well, when I arrived there, I went up there, I saw a bunch of nice cars I'm not used to seeing, so, I went up there, said hello, I was polite, and I just started taking pictures of the cool cars. I'm a car guy, I enjoyed them.
Why did you take the pictures?
I took the pictures because I'm in the market for a new car, and maybe be able to show my dealer, see if I could get a good deal on one of them.
What happened after you took pictures?
After I took the pictures of Mr. Maxwell right there, let it be known, the guy in the terrible red jacket, approached me and said, stop taking pictures of my car where I put my cell phone away. I was like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, I'm gonna go check out cookies. And then he's like, yeah, make sure you sell out cookies when you go in there. You empty your pockets. I said, okay, no worries. And then he said, get away from my car when I was standing at least 5 yards away from his car. And then he proceeded to swing at me. And after he swung at me, I walked back to behind cover, notified my officers that I had been assaulted, and Mr. Maxwell walked over again and approached me in a threatening manner. I pulled my taser and deployed it and put him in handcuffs.
Why did you pull out the taser?
Pulled out the taser because I was in fear that he was going to become more aggressive, and I didn't feel he was a lethal threat. Therefore, I went for my non-lethal, which we are trained to do, and I simply deployed my taser, got the subject under control, cuffed him, detained him, and we were going to take him into custody.
Do you know which people at the scene were starting to shoot you?
Yeah, sure. I could point out one right now.
Objection, irrelevant. This case is about Mr.
Gentleman
Maxwell.
right here.
Oh, no, he...
Objection, irrelevant. This case is about Mr. Maxwell. Objection, irrelevant. This case is about Mr. Maxwell.
It is. Your Honor?
He asked him a question about who.
Sustained.
Strike that from the record. Thank you.
Can we pull up both evidence?
Supposed to.
Okay, everyone that wants to see the evidence, I'm gonna post it in the general, okay, in the emails on your Discordia. All right, the evidence is posted there for your viewing pleasure of Mr. Maxwell.
Cookies, man. That's good, man. I like that.
Alright,
shit.
take your ass in here. Why is you all up on my motherfucking car and shit? What the fuck?
I like your cars, man. I'm just taking pictures of them. No big deal.
Hey, what the? My goddamn car, boy. You crazy as hell.
This guy assaulted me right here.
Yeah, you got a what? You got a what?
Hey, man. Cut it out.
Oh, you pulling a gun? You pulling a gun out on me?
Hey, guns.
Do you think that you proceeded according to the PD's SOP?
Absolutely. That's my bylaws, and that's how I execute my duties on the job.
As can be seen in the evidence, you ran behind a cover. Once you were behind the cover, were you able to see who shot this person right there?
Well, I would have to go back and review my body cam footage because it was the heat of the moment, and usually when I'm getting shot at, I'm more focused on, putting down the aggressors. But it should be on my evidence I have submitted from my body cam footage of who was shooting at my officers and I after Mr. Maxwell assaulted me.
How did this shootout end?
Myself and my partners were nearly mortally wounded. Luckily, Dr. Guzman over there and his team saved our lives.
And what happened to the person who was handcuffed?
We had no traces of the individual who was handcuffed. After, the shots were fired, the individual took off running, as usual. He always runs away.
When you first approached those people, what were their demeanor like?
It was negative. They always think every time we come up to them it's for, something bad, which it normally is every time we make contact with those individuals. But, my officers and I were genuinely curious about that cookie store, and we saw a bunch of nice cars out there. We could have wrote them more citations for illegally parking, but, we
on our
decided
business.
How is my business?
Go
Robert.
check out the establishment, give them support, and obviously he didn't like the pictures of his car, but that's no reason for him to assault an
He
officer,
took pictures of us.
you know, there's other
Yeah,
ways
you can
of
take a picture of
handling
that.
I need you to.
Other ways of handling that besides assaulting an officer, you know, you can go up to MRPD and file a complaint with my commissioner, who is always welcoming that.
Objection. This is not the question that was asked.
Sustained.
All right, this will be it with Officer Juice.
Yeah, thank you.
We would like to cross-examine Officer Juice. You were just asked by your lawyer about the reasoning why you pulled up to Cookies. When you pulled up to Cookies, you said that you were going to buy something, and you also noticed very nice cars. Is that true?
I noticed the very nice cars, yes, and I was going to check out the business.
Check out the business. Okay, my apologies. You also did admit that you received a call from, was it Officer Curd, that vehicles were parked outside there, so you were going to swing by to check it out. Was that correct? Is that the correct officer?
Correct.
I would like to ask you, first and foremost, you were on duty, or were you off duty?
On duty.
So is it reasonable to expect if you're on duty and you're pulling up to the business, you would be doing it on police business?
Yes.
Do you think it's appropriate to come to an establishment on police business and also take care of personal business?
I mean, I don't have a proper answer for that. Is it illegal for me to go to Burger Shot on duty and get a burger? I don't know. So
Well, you would be eating for your own benefit, correct? If you went to Burger Shop.
yeah, why couldn't I go to the Cookies where cars were parked illegally and notify the perpetrators that they did so?
You can. I'm not saying that you can't. But is that what happened when you arrived? Did you notify them that they were illegally parked, or did you take pictures of their vehicles and want to peruse their establishment?
Well, for my safety and my officer's safety, you know, we went up there, we checked the vehicles. Multiple individuals were there, more than 5 of them, from what I recall. And in the past, these guys have been aggressive, so, you know, we went up there, you know, as calm as possible. And clearly, Mr. Maxwell couldn't keep his hands to himself, so that's why it transpired to what it did.
While I'm glad you did share that information with me, Officer Juice, that is not the question that I asked. Did you go up there to follow up with the report from Officer Curd, or did you go up there to look at the nice vehicles and buy something from Cookies? I'm trying to establish, were you there on police business or personal business?
Sure, I went up there to follow up with Officer Curd's call.
Okay. So you went up there because he reported that multiple cars were parked outside of Cookies.
Illegally.
Illegally parked outside of Cookies. My
correct.
apology. Okay, pulling up in a marked vehicle to inform them that all of them are illegally parked. Did you tell anybody? Did you tell Mr. Maxwell, any of his friends, that their vehicles were illegally parked? Had any conversations been had about their vehicles being illegally parked?
Negative. We didn't even get a chance to let them know that. I went up there to take pictures of the vehicle, not only because I liked them and I was in the market to buy one, but also to prove to my commissioner that they were parked illegally.
Okay, so you went up there to...
And I still have the pictures on my phone as well right now. You would like to see them.
Okay, so I would like to know, at what point were you going to tell them that they were parked illegally before you started taking pictures?
After I went in and checked out Cookies. But I didn't, unfortunately, get to do that because Mr. Maxwell assaulted me.
So is it protocol to walk up to a business and then take pictures, go inside and handle non-personal business, and then get to the nature of your call?
No.
Hey, Commissioner.
That's not protocol. Okay. Would it be reasonable to assume that you should have gotten to police business?
Something specific you want to talk about?
I mean, I have different ways of doing my business. As far as, you know, handling those vehicles out there, I felt it was safe to scope the area, especially since there was multiple of them and they're very known to be hostile and carry class 2 weapons. So yes.
Known to be
Are they
hostile
supposed to be
and carry
talking
class 2
during
wrestling.
all
Does
this?
that have...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talking to me.
This is an isolated incident. I would like for you to stick with what you were doing for that call. What happened prior to this is not part of this
It's
case.
absolutely relevant because that's how I handle my police work when it comes to them
Them.
and my officers. Safety is
Order in the court. If counsel has an objection, they can voice it. Please keep quiet.
Okay, so let's move forward. You tased my client. The taser that you used, is that a non-lethal weapon?
correct.
What is the purpose of using a taser on a person? Not specifically in this case, but just in general. What's the purpose of using a taser?
To de-escalate an aggressor and get them under control and detain them.
When it comes to using a taser, what is the PD protocol before deploying and using it?
We give them commands first, let them know, hey, we're gonna tase you. And then if they keep disobeying that command, then we deploy the taser and then we get them under control.
And how many times did you tell my client, Mr. Maxwell, that you were going to tase him before you tased him?
I don't want to answer that question. One time.
Please answer the question.
One time.
One time. Are you certain?
I would have to check my body cam, but the evidence is there.
We will check the evidence, and I would like for the court to find out how many times he told my client that he was going to tase him before this happened. What typically happens after someone is tased, Officer Juice?
We detain them.
You detained
Correct.
him. When you say detain,
Handcuff.
handcuff.
Yeah.
Do you place them in the police vehicle?
Correct.
Was my client placed in the police vehicle after you tased and cuffed him?
No, I was shot by his friends.
So walk me through this. You took the picture, and then my client became irate because you were taking pictures. And I'm sorry, did you tell him you were going to take pictures? Or did you just start taking
yeah.
them?
I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm just taking a picture of your car. And then when he said stop,
Did he say that's fine?
well, so I just, put my phone away and was walking into Cookies, and that's when he hit me in the back of my head.
Okay, so you took the pictures, and as you were taking the pictures, you said, hey, I'm taking a picture of your car. I like your car.
No.
It wasn't you asked for permission kind of thing first. And he said yes or no, and then you put it away.
I don't need to ask permission to take a picture in a public place. Just like red light cameras don't need permission to take pictures of their cars either.
So my client became upset that you were taking pictures of his personal vehicle on his place of business.
Mhm.
And as you were putting away the phone, that is when he assaulted you.
When I was walking into Cookies, correct. And I said, I'm going inside to check out Cookies. And then he said, get away from my car. He hit me because he felt I was too close to his vehicle when I was nowhere near.
And the assault is which led you to feel that you were not safe and you used your taser.
Correct. I retreated behind cover, notified my officers around that I had been assaulted, and then the individual, Mr. Maxwell, approached me again in an aggressive manner, and I deployed my taser and detained him.
You said the taser is used to de-escalate. Do you feel that tasing him de-escalated the situation or escalated it?
De-escalated it because he was no longer punching.
He was no longer a threat to you.
Correct. Can I rebuttal that with a question?
I don't know. Is he able to do that, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Well,
Is this to me or to my client?
to you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're over here worried about how I deploy my taser, but, why is it being shown to the court for the record that it's okay for a Mr. Maxwell to assault me, an officer of the law who took an oath to this city?
Well, the reason why I was asking you those questions, I do want to point out that if officers pull up to anybody's establishment and just start taking pictures without announcing the reason why, it would cause anybody to be upset and to feel profiled. We don't know the reason why they didn't know the reason why you were there during that day. You know the reason because you got the call from the officer. I just want to paint the picture of
Correct.
my clients not being able to know
Correct.
based off
I
of
understand.
what was told to them.
I understand, but these guys also do know that our officers have body cams per our SOP rolling 24/7 while we're on the job. So their cars and their faces are being recorded constantly. So a picture of him getting offended, trying to justify why he hit me in the face over a picture is unjust because he's already being recorded before I pull my camera out.
If that's what you want to prove, that is what you can prove. But I'm also proving that you tased him without giving him fair warning.
Objection
I
argument.
didn't have to give him warning after he assaulted me. Per my SOP.
Per your SOP, does your SOP not state that you have to let the person know that you are going to tase them?
Not after they assault me.
Okay. Would like to see where it says that, but that's fine. No further questions.
Any cross?
Yes. I would like to do a redirect. Just before you tased Maxwell and went behind cover, how much time do you think you had to actually give out warnings before you receive your next punch?
5 seconds.
Do you think it's reasonable to give multiple warnings when you just have 5 seconds to react?
No.
Do you think that that specific situation would follow the SOP of the PD?
That would be a question for my commissioner. That would probably be the guy regarding SOP to ask. I do understand the SOP to the fullest, but in regards to how the policy is written, I won't answer on that.
Any
That will
further
be it for my
questions for this witness? Okay.
I would like to call J. Miles.
Wait, am I allowed
No.
to follow up on that?
If you have a rebuttal,
I'd like a rebuttal.
go ahead.
It's a quick one. Officer Juice, you said that it was about 5 seconds after you had about 5 seconds before my client hit you again.
Around there.
And this was after the first punch.
Correct.
But you did have time to... You did say that you radioed back that you were being assaulted. You had time to do that.
Of course. I'll always notify my officer.
And then you also had time to pull out your taser as well.
5 seconds.
So in the 5 seconds, you secured your safety and disregarded my client.
Your client wasn't in danger at that time. Your client was hanging out with his homeboys acting like the fucking thugs they are. And then he ran over to me and thought he was all big and bad because his homies
He's
were
only
out there.
answered the question that's asked.
And I tased them. And I detained them. And I'm glad I tased
him
them.
without warning.
After he punched me in the face, I don't need to give him a warning.
Okay.
Next witness.
You don't need to give him a warning.
Defense, your next witness. You're dismissed.
I would like to take J. Miles. So you're well rounded about the SOP surrounding the PD.
We're still fairly new, but we know majority of our SOPs.
Would you say that Officer Juice followed the SOP?
He followed protocol to the T. He crossed every T and dotted every I. He did everything he was trained to do as an officer.
Is the SOP publicly available?
No, sir. If we made it publicly available, then everybody would know our policies and know what we do.
During that 5-second officer had to react, do you think it was reasonable for the office, for Lieutenant Juice to use the taser with only one warning?
Honestly, he didn't even have to get the warning. As soon as he was assaulted by that individual, Mr. Maxwell, he had the right to deploy a taser with no warning.
Calling the police on the radio, is that the priority for the PD over warnings?
To be honest, he was assaulted by somebody and surrounded by all of his gang members. He kind of did the right decision by tasing him. It could have been like exactly what's going on outside, and that's what happened. See, if the individual was, you know, would have just let it go down and never assaulted my officer, he would have never been tased, and this would never be going on right now. I just want to ask the whole court. Everybody watched, you know, and everybody's seen the evidence we had, correct?
Well, they are just the spectators. The only most important one is the judge and the jury.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you to. You've seen the evidence, correct?
Indeed.
The evidence has been submitted.
Okay.
Review it.
Okay, sounds good.
Lawyer.
I just want to ask you both. How do you feel? Don't you feel he followed protocol? If you got assaulted and you're surrounded by, you know, a lot of gang members, wouldn't you feel kind of scared for your life and threatened? First thing that'll click is self-defense, and that's exactly what
Objection.
What is this objection to?
He's asking.
Wait a second, please.
Everybody there.
No. Just give her objection. She just did everything else, so let her have it.
You are answering questions that were not asked.
Okay. Okay. What's the next question?
In your police department, how is his gang or his member, whatever they call it, how are they portrayed in the PD?
Objection, relevance about a gang. This is about Mr. Maxwell.
Maxwell is associated with the gang.
Please?
How does how does the PD I can't formulate it anymore.
You're gonna ask, how do we assume that it was his gang that was
Sir.
What?
Yeah, just forget the questions.
Okay, next question.
How do you feel about the situation that happened?
I feel that my officer was completely in the right. I mean, the footage should tell you everything you need to know. He got assaulted for taking a picture. I mean, isn't this, you know, aren't we able to take pictures of whatever
Objection,
we want?
he's answering some other questions.
Do you wish to continue with your answer?
I honestly don't. Every time I answer something, it's subjective. So.
It was overruled.
I just wanna point out that he was, you know, we have footage and it proves that he was completely in the right, but yet it's not going anywhere. I really can't say no more. We have the footage, we have everything you need. It's all been submitted. I'm pretty sure the judge already answered and it's already determined.
I would like to cross-examine, yes. All right, so I had asked Officer Juice this question. I wanted to get your opinion since you are the commissioner. When it comes to using the taser, what is the PD protocol before deploying and using a taser?
To be honest, it depends on the situation.
What does the SOP say?
It's going to tell you the same thing. It depends on the situation. If you're assaulted, you don't have to repeat yourself. You're going to deploy a taser. I mean, you just assaulted the officer. He's scared for his life. What's the next move? Is he just going to stand there and let you assault him again, or is he going to put you down and detain you to de-escalate the situation?
Do you recall when I came down to PD and asked you for the SOP?
Yes, ma'am. And I told you the same answer I told everybody else. I can't give that out to the public. That is pretty private to us as PD. We should not be giving our SOPs to everybody else, and you know, to know what we do internally. That's kind of PD's.
That's not what I asked, but okay.
You're asking for my SOPs.
I asked. Do you remember when I came and asked?
Yes, then I answered the question for you, ma'am.
Yeah, that's it.
Next question, please.
If someone is cuffed at a scene, is it fair to say that they have been cuffed for the officer's safety?
Yes, it definitely cuffed for the officer's safety.
My client, Mr. Maxwell, was gunned down at the end of this whole altercation.
Because his guy shot
if
first.
If he was cuffed, can I finish?
Yes, go ahead.
If my client was cuffed for the officer's safety, if he gets gunned down, could there be a reason why?
Am I good to answer now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if his gang members wouldn't have shot first, there would have been no shots fired. That is clearly in the evidence that you guys have submitted to you.
Okay. These alleged gang members of friends of my client, whoever they are, if my client is cuffed during the scene, if he's tased and cuffed for the officer's protection, and an officer's body cam show that they are firing in the direction of my client and his friends, would it be wrong if it is pointed out that one of your officers shot my client while he was cuffed?
One of my officers wouldn't have shot if there was no shots fired to begin with. I just want to start with that. So if my officers did shoot, it was because somebody else in the area shot first. We are not trained to shoot first, ask questions later. We are trained...
I'm not questioning. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I'm not denying the fact that your officers didn't shoot first or whoever shot first. I'm just trying to establish why a cuffed suspect is gunned down.
That's...
Because...
Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that. It's probably because his guys were shooting at my officers, so my officers might have misidentified him as being not cuffed, and that could have been a big reason. There's numerous things.
Okay, according to the body cam footage submitted by my client's place of business, yes, the video quality is horrible. However, we can see that he was attempting to run inside of Cookies for his safety. Sometime between him running inside of Cookies, he was gunned down from behind.
I mean, it is kind of hard to see what's going on from a far distance. So it's kind of an iffy situation.
But with the video submitted by Officer Juice's body cam, the bullets did come from the direction in which he and his officers were at.
Like I said, it could have been them not, have a good visual. Shots are coming towards their vicinity from that direction. So, I mean, of course, they're going to, fire back in that vicinity. I mean, who was hit in that area is kind of hard to determine, especially on how hard it is to see somebody from a distance. How are we going to know from a distance that he is cuffed? It's kind of hard to determine. And whenever Juice is down and can't respond, you guys are shooting at somebody cuffed. How are we going to know? If they would have never shot at Juice and they would have never put his life in jeopardy to begin with and just let his friend go to jail and do, the 5 months he was going to do, had this never happened, none of this would have happened. But no, they couldn't just sit back and watch their friend do 5 months in jail. I mean, I don't understand it. It's just, it don't make no sense.
I understand your passion, Commissioner. Also, I would like to point out that the other officers on the scene with Officer Juice, they took cover across the street from Cookies, the place of business. It looks as if on the body cam of Officer Juice, they all were just firing it generally in that direction to take any and everybody out. How is Officer Juice standing within the PD?
He's a very good officer. I think he is a very good officer, and he just does his job the way he's trained to do it.
Any prior issues with Officer Juice?
Not too many, maybe one, but that didn't stick because it was all false statements. They had no proof, and I don't believe my officer would have done anything there. So no, I'll answer your question. No, I have no problems with it.
So there were complaints. Are there any complaints about him then?
I have not had a complaint.
Because
there was one complaint a long time ago, and we actually came to court for it, but the client did not want to come to court because it was false statements.
All right, I just want the record to show that something was, a complaint was filed in some way, even though it got thrown out. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, I've heard all the evidence. At this time, I am ready to make a ruling.
Sorry.
So there was cars illegally parked in front of Cookie's restaurant. And Officer Juice got a call to go there.
No, they weren't.
And he proceeded to go there because of illegally parked cars.
No, they wouldn't.
There is...
You can't, the judge is talking. There
is no expectation of privacy in public. So he took pictures of cars that he was lawfully and able to do. The client admits to striking the officer. So he pulled his taser after being struck, and he did apply reasonable force, which was the taser and handcuffs. I believe that the SOP was followed
He's going away in a minute.
it was non-lethal, and he did handcuff
Taking him from here.
Mr. Maxwell in order to subdue him after he was struck. He did not announce that the taser was going to be deployed because he did not have time, because he was actively being struck by Mr. Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell was caught in the crossfire, and I do not believe that it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the officer or any officer struck him, because we cannot tell where any of those shots were coming from. Therefore, this case is dismissed.
Hallelujah.
Because there was no proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Officer Juice acted negligently or spitefully, nor that he broke the SOP in this matter. That is the ruling of this court. Case dismissed.
Yep, right.